Hello, everybody. I'm really sorry for this. First of all, for the technical difficulties, which always come at the time that you don't really need them. And next, for this long distance broadcast, actually. This is an unfortunate coincidence that the date of the conference was exactly the same date that we had agreed on a meeting with our group, our BO 50 group, Walking the City, which is in Berlin. So coming from Ljubljana, I am now actually talking via Skype while the other guests arriving from elsewhere are there. I hope it will nevertheless work that way also. So first, it was thought also that we may be able to test actually some experiments, some products which we are developing in the Walking the City group. But then, in the end, the group is now out there in public space somewhere in Berlin, while I'm here presenting the topic to you. Anyway, so what's going on? That's the title of the conference. What's going on in public space? This is this new dynamics that is being explored. I'm sure there were a lot of interesting presentations yesterday already and today, and more of them will follow later. I'm really sorry I was not able to see them, but nevertheless I will try to present a few my view of what's going on. A lot is going on, actually, in public space in general. Public space is the bearer of all or many interesting uses that people, many interesting things that people do in public. Let's say we have a few examples here. The typical urban shopping street. People use parks in many ways. So people take a rest in squares and other in gardens. They read. They can use parks for various purposes. But people can also express their political beliefs, and the public space is the primary bearer of public engagement in politics. So the democracy developed somehow simultaneously in the modern world, simultaneously with the development of public space. Democracy doesn't exist without public space. But people also enjoy life in public space in many different ways. They listen to concerts, they play music in public space, they enjoy food, they sell food. So the public space is actually the medium for all these uses that can take place. They can also enjoy just an evening stroll and a little conversation in public space. Now, if we go to walking, walking is on the one hand also a use of public space by itself. So walking is happening in public space in one way or another. It can be an activity by itself, or it can be a social activity. But what is important is also that public space, which is by definition space which is accessible to all under equal terms, all these activities can only be accessed by foot. We cannot imagine an activity, almost not actually, an activity that is happening in public space and it is accessible in any other way than by walking, actually. So walking is, it is an activity, it is a use of public space by itself, but it's also the use that is connecting all other uses in public space. On the other hand, walking is also a way of movement. And not only that, so it's a means of transport, but it's also connecting other ways of transport. So when you go with public transport, you actually step on it by foot, and you when you go by car, the minute you step out of your car, you're walking again. So you're a pedestrian, and this is a fact that is typically forgotten in all transport planning, actually, and also in relation very often it's neglected when designing, let's say, public space, that it's actually a transport mode. To be more precise a little bit, I found some data, nice data from Great Britain, which is doing a lot for walking, and also statistics is well accessible. And so let's say in Great Britain, almost 1/4 of all journeys are made entirely on foot. So a quarter of journeys is walking as transport mode. Even more, like 3/4 of all journeys under 1 mile, which is approximately 1.6 kilometers, are made entirely on foot. And in quantitative terms, an average person travels like over 300 kilometers per year on foot, which is totaling like a 3% of the total distance, which is not negligible by far. Like it's written, the average length of a journey is around 1 kilometer, and 5% of all journeys are over 3 kilometers. So these are some transport facts, taking account of walking as a transport mode. So we are actually making it making a lot of our journeys by foot, despite the fact that walking nowadays has not been considered as a transport mode for a long time, and we can actually say that now walking is almost a marginal practice, because there is one other transport mode that has taken up more public space than any other transport mode before. And not only that, it's the only use of public space which has been which has been granted the right to make exclusive use of public space, which is not the case for many other transport modes, and even less so for other uses of public space. One of the characteristics of public space is that it's multi-purpose, and what personal car travel did to public space is actually exclude a major portion of it for a single purpose, and for a single purpose which is even not very extensively using this space. Let's say parked cars are stationary for more than 97% of their time. They're just making up, they're just using space and not being in use. And similarly for roads, actually. And this process did not happen immediately when the cars came. The cars came to our cities in the beginning of the 20th century, more or less. And it took them a few decades to actually gain this right, or so to say, the society, the authorities only used or allowed cars to make more and more space after almost half a century. So the second half of the 20th century was really the dominant. The cars became the dominant use of public space in most cities, and of course, new infrastructure has been built exclusively for cars, even in cities, not making any provisions, let's say, for walking, despite the fact that walking happens all the time. And this resulted in some very, very strange landscapes, which are now pretty common in our cities. They don't make any notice of the fact that people are like pedestrians most of their time. That they actually can only make use of any activity on their foot. So we are now faced with the situation that even places which are heavily occupied by pedestrians are actually dominated by cars, and pedestrians and people are forced to the margin of public space, literally. Sidewalks are sidewalks, and sometimes they are really compressed to the size that doesn't enable walking anymore. And of course, also all other uses of space are competing for this remain of what is left of street after cars took a major part of it. Interestingly, also some very public institutions which are functioning by being accessible to people put this kind of signs to be all, and it all are temporary situations. These temporary situations are coming actually now in many cities. Construction sites are actually there to stay for a long time. But it's not only construction sites; it's also normal situations, like here a road is simply prohibited for pedestrians. Also, although it's in the middle of the city, and more cases like this, the cars have become such a norm that actually even these remains of public space, which the sidewalks, are occupied by force with cars, because there's just not enough space to accommodate all the cars everywhere, and it is socially acceptable to basically buy public space for cars. In extreme situations, this is the first day of school last year in Ljubljana. The people took their children to school by car, and in this way, not leaving any space for the children actually which were on foot to access the school. It's not only in practice, it's not only in physical space, it's also in perception of the pedestrians, that this is a marginal practice. If you see this ad promoting safety, it is an ad to promoting road safety, to be precise. And here, pedestrians are first of all depicted as victims. So they are the ones that they should take care of themselves, not despite the fact that they are the, let's say, the weak members of in public space. They they should take care of themselves by being visible. I think it's very interesting that the signs that these people in this poster are wearing to be visible, it's not really something that they would wear by normal life, in normal life, and not it is posed on the pedestrians to be actually the ones that should take care of themselves. It's also the social groups that are depicted here that are interesting. It's elderly people, it's children, it's not active people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, unless they are with children, let's say. So it is a marginal practice. The effects of this are visible. Again, British data, some of them American, but in 20 years, the average proportion of journeys on foot in Britain fell from more than 1/3 of all journeys to less than 1/4. So it's a significant decrease. In the also the number of walk trips per person fell, and the total distance fell as well. Although now it seems to have stabilized, at least in Britain. Similar trends are also in other countries, also in Slovenia. Faced with all these problems and facts, there was a movement, I would say, or a really strong initiative to introduce walking back to the cities that started actually quite a long time ago in some cities. And this was due to the fact that it was recognized that walking is a very desirable practice, especially in terms of health benefits. It can be considered almost as a magical tool for many illnesses. Can help as a prevention to even to some cancers, or especially for the coronary diseases. So here are some data which have been proved by various researches in the field of medicine. So cities started introducing walking back into public space. Some space has been taken away from the cars. It started in the 60s already in the European cities. Here are some examples, let's say from Ljubljana. This is Prague, Rijeka, Naples. It's happening everywhere actually, and it's more and more space is taken away from cars and given to pedestrians, to people, and it has always been a huge success in terms of use. The uses of other uses were starting to bloom wherever this happened. So in fact, the most important or the most emphasized effects by the city authorities typically been in the field of economics. Not only does walking promote or enable savings in the sphere of public health, so which are, by the way, enormous, but it also helps to boost local economy. So in these areas which have been turned to pedestrian zones. Here the data shows that, let's say, in London, people who walk to the city center or a town center spend more money than those arriving by car or public transport. Similarly, let's say in New York, in Times Square, when it was closed for car traffic, the earnings of shops nearby have risen by 70% in 1 year or something around that figure. Also, it was calculated that an increase, some increase in this walk score, which is a measure for walkability of neighborhoods. So some 10-point increase in walk score, which would be, let's say, 10% of this 10% better walkability, whatever that means. This increases commercial property values by some 5 to 8%. And this translates directly into profits for investors. So these are like these have been main drivers for boost in this called rebirth of walking in cities. But this is not all good news, because what has actually happened is that primarily streets in the city centers were the ones who were turned to walkable areas. It almost never happened in the existing, let's say, neighborhoods, which are where most people live, let's say, not only in Ljubljana, but also in other cities where this happened. This is simply because the economics of pedestrian zones is the important driver of this pedestrianization city centers. So the profits are the ones that are here an important motive for cities, definitely. And it also has some negative effects on other uses, because many these walkable streets have now changed their there are less shops and more cafes, let's say, in each of these streets, and this has negative effects for some, let's say, availability of groceries in certain areas and so on. So people, there are even less people now living in these areas than before, but there are more hotels and hostels and more like commercial activities coming. Although there is this very positive trend in many European cities, like turning areas, and not only European cities, of course, this has been a trend in the last decades all over the world. This does not necessarily mean a better quality of life for most people living in these cities. And this was something that we are really interested in at our work at our institute, the IPoP, the Institute for Special Policies. We are trying to. We ask ourselves, what can we do actually to promote walking as a key, one of the key tools for let's say better quality of life. One of the strong activities that we do is promoting participation of citizens, which is, we believe, the first thing that is improving the planning and design of cities. One important tool, but directly in relation to walking, we also think of two ways, let's say, two general directions in which we are trying to improve the situation. It's not only us, of course. It's just that we are trying to follow to find the people we collaborate with. So all the projects that we do involved also other groups, informal groups, citizens, or other organizations. Here let's say we also participated in a few urban planning competitions. In all of the solutions we proposed the role of the pedestrian was very emphasized, and this is what I call strategies here. This is a top-down approach to cities, and I think it's very important. We have seen the neighborhoods, the estates that were designed as a good practice in the 60s and 70s in Ljubljana now have a much better living conditions, let's say, than even some newer ones. So a top-down approach, so-called strategies, are very important in cities. We should not forget that. There's another competition entry that we have developed, both of them together with the group Maya Farol, composed of architects, but emphasizing the interdisciplinary role, the interdisciplinary group, so involving also sociologists, landscape architects, geographers, and so on. Artists into the designing of proposals. But even more interesting, perhaps, are the initiatives that we are trying to develop with some citizen groups. And here are two proposals that that were developed actually by the group Pazi Park on our initiative, together with the citizens from Spodnja Šiška in Ljubljana. So how to make to convert, let's say, some public space into a more, let's say, pedestrian or friendly spaces. And we also collaborate initiatives. So this was one street festival in IPoP, which was organized by various initiatives, including Prostorov and Zapad. And here the project also was developed by Prostorov to do with it. Found it an example of this parking. You know, the parklet in San Francisco really take away from parking into extended spaces and new use of these spaces. So apart from this, let's say, more strategic approach, I'm now getting to the tactical approach, which is how to promote walking come up from the users, actually. And the best is to walk. People would walk more. The demand for space would be greater, and awareness would also rise. And this is also the story behind this initiative. We joined Jane's Walk. We have organized Jane's Walk since 2011 in Slovenia, and it's exactly the beginning of May, the first weekend in May each year that they are organized, and we have this year we have extended them, so they are still taking place in Slovenia right now. Today, as an example, there are 5 walks around Slovenia, so you can join them today and tomorrow, and also on Sunday still some towns around Slovenia. So the idea here is simply to walk together, to have people taking care of their community, the people emphasizing the conditions or observing conditions for walking, and emphasizing the possible problems with that, and of course having a conversation about that. That's a very important part of it. And until now, including this year's walks, there have been almost 50 walks organized around Slovenia, and including mostly they were organized by local citizen groups and other dedicated individuals. And so we are really thankful them to take part of it, and we also think that this is the way it has to be. Actually, that the local initiatives are the ones that are the drivers of change in communities. It's almost also around 1,000 people participated altogether in these walks until now. I'm sure you have heard yesterday a lot about other bottom-up initiatives to improve public space, to make to have public space more livable, to make it let's say more attractive and also more alive, because only the public space which is inhabited is the one that is a good one. That is only is the good public space, is inhabited public space, and this is, I think, this abundance of these initiatives is a very important factor, and it can contribute to change for the better, or transformation in public space for the better. But it cannot produce all the change that is needed actually to have cities starting becoming again the cities inhabited by people instead of cars, let's say, to have a little bit demagogic, to be a little bit demagogic. So what is actually needed for let's say stopping the cars in the way that I have seen, let's say, in Berlin, which is now this picture, these civic initiatives cannot act by themselves. You cannot close the road permanently by bottom-up activities. You need social agreement on that, and you need political will to do it, actually. So what is needed is politics, which will be which will make the distant transition for to better public space. So and it's not only the top, let's say, decision-making powers that matter. It is not only the let's say the decree from the mayor that is important, but it's the public debate that is sparked around these initiatives to, let's say, close some streets or limit the car traffic. It is very important that the citizen know why this is good, and the debate around it, even if some proposals are which, let's say, are thought by the experts and by civil society organizations as beneficiary, even if they're rejected, let's say, at the referendum, still the debate sparked around these proposals is very important, and is making the long-term benefits worth it somehow. So this is actually where I will stop, and I thank you for your attention, and hopefully it was bearable also this long distance. Thank you.